See, I'm going to ask, how do I know for sure that you're asking the question that I've given you?
Just have to trust me, Sue.
Okay.
Sue Chapman, welcome to Question Roulette.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here, I think.
You think? You're concerned about that. So, firstly, Sue, for those who perhaps do not know who you are, can you tell us a bit about yourself?
Yeah, sure. So, I've been a surgeon here in the Southwest for the last 25 years. I've worked at the Southwest Health Campus and built a urology practice down here, which has been a wonderful career. Loved it, thought it was brilliant, and absolutely really enjoyed that part of my life. Been able to bring up my family here in the Southwest and loved living down here with the outdoors lifestyle. It's been incredible. But I started to think that maybe there was a different path that I wanted to take, and I've been increasingly disillusioned with what I see as a very polarizing and partisan approach to politics, which I don't think is helping us to deal with the really big crisis that is occurring in front of our eyes. And it's a housing crisis, and a cost of living crisis, and a climate and extinction crisis. And so I worked with a group for quite some time doing community consultation, and then we produced a report which suggested that over 85% of people weren't happy with the way that they were being represented here in the Southwest. And so that brought me to this point, where I'm now standing as an independent candidate for Forrest at the next federal election.
Now I want to take you quickly over the rules for Question Roulette. So you'll see here, and I'll show this to everyone as well, we've got little counters here, or tokens, whatever you want to call them. Basically, the blue ones are related to not so serious questions, and the black ones are related to more serious questions. I'll hand this over to you now. Your job is to choose 5 black counters and 5 blue counters, and from that we'll do the interview.
So my question is there an opportunity to say pass?
We'll see how things go.
I always like to set the ground rules before I start playing a game.
All right, I think we're all good to go. Be interested to see what the Water Corp thinks about this. How often do you spend more than 4 minutes in the shower?
Actually, I live on a property which doesn't have scheme water, so we have rainwater. So we are very aware of how long we take in the shower. So as long as it takes me to wash my hair, condition my hair, and wash, that's it.
Yeah.
Very aware of water at our place.
Yeah. What is the most rebellious thing you did as a teenager?
This is going to sound so pathetic. I was such a nerd at school. I loved school. Absolutely thought school was just the best thing ever. And I loved learning and I loved being there. But in year 11, I turned up to school one day and I thought, I can't do this today. I actually just can't do this today. And I took off and just went to my teacher and said, I'm leaving. I'm not staying here today. I'm going to go and see a movie. I'll be back tomorrow. And it's and the teacher, God bless her, looked at me and she knew that that was not, that clearly I just needed that day. So I was not rebellious. I had older brothers and sisters who were very rebellious. And I looked at their behaviour and I thought, no, I'm going to be the nerdy one.
So you learned from them pretty much.
Absolutely, yeah.
And did you end up going back to school the next day?
Of course I did, yeah.
It's good.
Yeah. So not very rebellious, I'm afraid.
Where is the most far-flung place you've travelled to?
Distance-wise or culture-wise?
Can be both.
Okay. So distance-wise it would be Iceland, and culture-wise it would be Madagascar.
And how did you find both of those different experiences?
Iceland was just spectacularly wild and beautiful. We went in the middle of winter, so all of the frozen landscape, and it was just the most incredible place to visit. I absolutely loved it. And Madagascar, well, that's a place that's close to my home because I've been there doing aid work. And it's such an incredibly diverse continent and a diverse people, and it's a very much a developing country, and so very different from Australia.
And what would you say was your most interesting experience doing aid work in Madagascar?
Interesting from a tourism perspective. Last time I was there, the plane that we were meant to catch got cancelled. And so all of a sudden we had to do a road trip from the bottom end of Madagascar to the capital to catch our plane to get out of the country.
And how long did that take you?
2 days of 13 hours a day driving. But, it was extraordinary to see the landscape, to see how people are living across this incredible country. That was amazing. Probably one of the most foolish things I ever did was take my family. I had a young family, and my daughter just laughed at the end of the trip and said, "Why did you bring us here?"
Won't be making that mistake again.
Yeah, it was challenging to travel with kids because it's a hard country to travel within, and you have to be willing to be quite uncomfortable and not have many creature comforts, and you'll turn up places and the toilets don't work and the showers don't work, and it's a challenging place for kids.
Have you ever questioned whether you've taken the right path in life?
I think the answer is that for me, life is always a series of choices. And so I'm really happy with the choices that I've made. And I'm really happy that I have been able to have a successful career, and I've had a beautiful family. And so I think for me, the path has been the correct one.
If you had to write a memoir, what would it be called?
Something like Outside My Lane. I've always been the person to challenge the norm. And if I can see, it sounds crazy because I've just told you I wasn't rebellious, but I am the sort of person that I think, I like to see where I think things could be changed. And even if I don't necessarily have the skills or the knowledge or the capacity, I will always do my best to move into that space, learn as much as I can, and try to activate change. So, for me to become a surgeon, that wasn't ever part of, something that would have been expected for me at school.
Yeah.
For me to then go into urology, there were hardly any women in urology when I went in. For me to come and set up a regional practice, that was just like completely out of the box. And now I suppose this change.
Yes.
It's out of the box again.
Yes. This next question I think is very poignant, considering you have just come from being a urologist and a surgeon. How do you relax?
Yeah, because most of my work has been very people-centred and front-facing to the community, I tend to spend time down at the beach with my dog, alone, walking and just thinking, not having to talk to anyone. I love doing yoga, and so I do that, and I run, and most of the things that I do for relaxation are things that allow me to just take time to myself and process what's happened over the day or the night or whatever.
And how long do you run? Do you generally run 5K, 6Ks? Do you have a set limit?
Yeah, so last year I set myself a challenge that I would run 10, and so I built up and I ran 10K, and I was really proud of that, but my standard is 5. Yeah. 5 is where I feel quite comfortable, and so I'm happy to do that.
Okay, no plans of doing a marathon or anything?
No, one of my kids does marathons and is just the most extraordinary runner, and I would just feel embarrassed. I'm not a good runner at all. People talk about being a type of runner, and I just say I'm a persistence runner. I'm not very fast or good at anything.
What type of car do you drive?
Yeah, so I have an electric vehicle, and I've had that for 5 years.
And how have you found the experience moving from, I imagine, either diesel or unleaded vehicle to an electric vehicle?
Look, I love it. I'm not someone who loves driving. I really generally hate driving. But my car, it's quiet, it works perfectly. I don't have to think about where the next petrol station is. I've had, I think in 5 years, 2 episodes where I've been worried about getting to the next charger. Range anxiety is just a falsehood. And I've found it, it's really been a wonderful experience.
Have you been able to convince anyone else to buy an electric vehicle?
I most certainly have. Yeah, my standard practice is that if I'm going away for a period of time, I loan my car to someone and I give them the opportunity to drive an electric vehicle for a week or 2 weeks or whatever. And out of that, I've definitely had quite a number of people who've then gone and bought an electric vehicle.
Do you have to set any conditions?
They pay their own fines. That's all.
It's very good to know.
Yeah.
When was the last time you sent a letter in the mail?
Actually, just last week. I sent 2 personalised thank you cards to people.
It's very nice. Is that to your supporters or?
So it's something that I think it's so uncommon these days to actually get a thank you card in the mail. And when I was leaving the practice, quite a number of people sent them to me. And I thought, gosh, that's lovely. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's so nice. Do you prefer cats or dogs?
I find it impossible to answer that question because I've always had both. I don't have a cat in my life at the moment, but I love the enthusiasm of dogs and I love the aloofness of cats.
What breed of dog have you got at the moment?
We've got a cavoodle. Yeah, and he's about 13 years old now, so he's getting a bit old, but he still loves coming down the beach and going for runs, and he still thinks that he can chase every kangaroo.
Is that his favourite thing to do out the beach, is chase the kangaroos?
Oh no, that's on our property. We do get some kangaroos that like to come in and fertilise and eat our lawn, and so he thinks that that's his territory, and so tends to chase them off.
Yes. Which is the better sporting code, the AFL or the NRL?
Okay, I don't even think that that's a question. There's such a simple answer. I grew up in Victoria, I was a fan of the VFL, and I still am an interested bystander in the AFL. NRL, I got no idea what you're talking about. It's true, I don't understand rugby, I have no awareness of what really the game involves, and I've never been brought up with it. So yeah, definitely AFL for me.
Do you have a favourite team?
Well, again, because I grew up in Melbourne, in the area that used to actually be the drainage point for Hawthorn, and my dad barracked for Hawthorn, so that's who I have to barrack for.
Well, we've come to the end of Question Roulette. How did you find it, Sue?
Yeah, that's great. Thank you very much for offering it to me. It's brilliant.
Yes, thank you so much for your time. I do really appreciate it.
It's a pleasure. Thank you.